Yes, sure thing.
We have
Cecil Westerhoff will evaluate.
yeah, he would join us online, and that's not possible, so we have to find a replacement.
Okay.
And we have Tanya.
Yeah.
And the
Tanya.
speakers, we have Magdalena.
Okay, Magdalena, Fred.
Fred.
And you.
And yeah, I don't need an evaluator. You can do it through evaluation.
Who's going to do it?
So, who is the evaluator of Magdalena? And who evaluates Fred?
Since
Tanya is one.
I mentioned third.
Yes.
So maybe
Tanya is the third evaluator. So, since you don't have an evaluator, Tanya, maybe you can evaluate Magdalena.
Okay.
Okay.
Over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For evaluation.
I really wouldn't know how to, but I sure can try.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
the spirit.
All right, then, where were we? The first speaker, Magdalena, super product for sale, Magdalena, Viziga.
Hello everyone, my name is Magdalena and I'm really glad that we can meet again here in our club and hopefully in a bigger group soon. So today I would like to offer you a super product and it's on sale. Are you ready for that?
Yes.
Do you remember during your childhood when you just came back from school and you ran away and you played with your friends all day till the evening? And how is it today? We hardly can see kids outside. They spend all day in front of TV, computers, and during that corona crisis, I think that problem even deepened because parents have only limited capacity, so they had to work in the same time, and the easiest way to keep kids under control was to just give them tablet or TV, and that's it. So around the world, people spend less and less time outside. And because we are linked to the nature, that causes a lot of troubles, and we can see that in rising cases of depression or obesity. And I believe for kids and young generation, it's even like a bigger problem. I can see that it has impact on me, because if I spend whole day in front of computer at work, then I came back, I'm upset. And yesterday I had such a day, and in the evening I went for a run and I got completely wet because actually storm got me. But I came back with a smile on my face, and that smile stayed till the evening. So do we take nature for granted? Maybe because we don't have to pay for it, so we don't associate the value to it. Can you imagine nature as a product? So it has to compete with all the products which have a huge marketing budget. And the budget is spent to convince us that we really need it and that products will make us happy. But actually, is our happiness related to this product or our long-term happiness? I think it's not. And it's more related to our relations with nature and relations with our family. So how we win the competition between products and our product nature? I think we have to become a seller of nature, and we have to convince people that this product is worth to invest our time, and especially kids, because think about the nature as unlimited playground. You can use everything to just have a good fun there and to relax, to create amazing memories, and that's something what cannot be replaced but by material things. I know that some parents see a risk in going out and just letting kids have fun as it was in the past. But is it really worse than it was in the past? Or maybe it's only because we see more news and we read more bad news in media, and the risk is not any bigger than it was in the past, but we are just more afraid. So I believe that our product is amazing, and it's really worth to convince people to kind of buy it, and it's waiting for us just right there. And deeply there, everyone has this desire to have this contact with nature. Just we are so distracted by everything what's everyday duties and everything what surrounded us. So we sometimes just don't feel that. And the most important is to invest time to convince kids that that's the best place to play, which will create the chance for them to develop themselves, that they need to use creativity, which will actually help them in the future. And for our good, just for our health and for our mental health, it's just worth to go out. And thank you very much.
1 minute of evaluation results. Yeah, yes. It was a nice one, Magda, and I think people get the importance of nature during this lockdown. Our next speaker, Fred Eikenboom, mentor and mentee.
Yes, mentor and mentee. It's part of a project within my pathways. It's also a very important past thing of Toastmasters. It's very important because Toastmasters is a learning place. You learn how to communicate, and the more you communicate, the more you learn, the more experience you get. And once you're experienced, you can become a mentor. People who start, and they can learn from you not to make the same mistakes, and to grow faster. But that's the part of a mentor. A mentor is not like a coach. A coach tells you to do something, and a mentor just helps you, he guides you. Because every person is different. Has his own experiences, his own background, his own beliefs, and he has to be comfortable in being a speaker, being on stage, and not having to fulfill other one's ideas, but he has to come forward for himself. For my case, that's what I'm going to explain by little examples. In my life, I didn't have a lot of mentors. A little bit mentoring I did on my business. The most time it was coached. When you go to a job, you're mostly not mentored. You're mostly coached because you are told you do this, you do this, you do this. The only thing when you can be coached or become a mentor is when you have a free, I call it, a free way to develop things. You have to bring in a new point of view within a business. Like for instance, I work in logistics, and a lot of people think logistics is optimal. It's not. Because in the IT version, we are way back behind. Technology is going faster than the thoughts of logistics. And you look at things here, automated, it's very slow. And most people, when you develop something in the technology, you're always behind. So there's a little space for mentoring. The only thing what you learn in logistics, and that's because logistics is a thing of free thinking, you can be mentored in how to develop yourselves in free thinking. So to look beyond borders, there's no box like the Matrix. You have to think out the box. You have to look for solutions around the problem. If you have a path to follow, there are always different paths, but you must learn to see them. And this is easily done by mentoring. Because when you mentor people, you learn to think for yourself. You're switching the knowledge. When I get a younger guy to mentor, or when I'm being mentored, I get thoughts from the person, this is how it's done in the past. But I have my own ideas, especially nowadays. The past was the old guys know. Nowadays, it's about technology. Even the student learns something to the teacher. And the best teachers are teachers who learn from the students. The same is with the mentor. It's a win-win situation for both. So when you tell something to your mentee, you will find out that your mentee has other ideas about it. And what you have to do as a mentor, you have to encourage that. You have to be sure that mentee finds his or her own path. For that, it's very important to listen. If you don't listen, if you don't communicate with your mentee, then soon you will find a lot of problems because you don't know anymore what to say and how to do things. You get in a conflict situation. You must encourage the mentee to go further. This brings us back to the end conclusion. When you become a mentor within Toastmasters, the most important thing about a mentor is about listening. That's the first thing. The second thing is you have to look at the person who he is or she is, with his own background, experience, and you have to have a commitment from both sides. So when a mentee is going to speech for the first time or to practice, best way is to be there as a mentor to evaluate afterwards and give guidance to the mentee how to achieve things. After all, every aspect of this is learn to become better as a mentor and mentee. Thank you.
Yeah, I will want.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Yeah, 1 minute of duration. Our next speaker doesn't need introduction. Our beloved Els.
Yes. So, normally we are looking at the beginning of a speech. From what will it be about? What are we going to hear now? Yet, this part will focus on the conclusion of the speech. I would like to share with you how we can make the conclusion of the speech strong. Because imagine you have prepared yourself well, you had a good opening, you immediately caught the attention, the pros and the cons, it was all there. But how do you finish? If you just continue talking, people do not even realize you're trying to close the mouth here. And then in the end, that you, well, that is somehow, you let yourself let it down. The subject will not land as well as it could when you would have a strong conclusion. Yeah? So one of the things that we aim through a strong closure is that somehow to the audience you indicate, I'm wrapping up, I'm finishing. What you sometimes notice is that people open the speech, then they address the audience, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow members, guests, then you hear the body, and in the end they might come back and say, Mr. Toastmaster, dear members, and now you can see from he is somehow coming to the end part because he addresses again a second time, Mr. Toastmaster. Or you can say in summary, or in the end, that somehow indicates already I'm coming to the end of my speech. A second reason why you might like to have a strong finishing is because you want to emphasize to increase the impact it has. Okay? If you, for instance, speak about how Corona has impacted the country, like we not so long ago heard the impact it had on Italy, isn't it? The strong closure might actually emphasize that point, might raise the empathy that you feel, or might increase the seriousness with which you appraise that situation. Okay? So that's somehow what you try to do, to bring back the focus and increase the impact that your speech eventually will have. In this paper, because obviously I had a preparation paper to present this with, they mentioned that many people in the audience remember your last bit best. Okay? So they might forget elements of what you said during the beginning or during the body, but with the end part, they remain the longest. And if that is strong, therefore your message, and so on, perhaps a beat, perhaps 2 beats. Okay? So that's why there is another reason to see if you can make your closure better. Nevertheless, they recommend from keep it in proportion. So you have perhaps 10-15% an opening, then you have quite a large body, 60-70%, and you might again have 15-20% max to close it. If you think about it in minutes, that's a nice division. Now there are techniques that allow me to use the paper, given that my preparation was slightly less. One is from user quotation. And I was thinking about the theme of tonight. Where were we? And perhaps it's not a quotation, but I thought a good conclusion could be, we were there, we participated, we made a difference. And I think no matter what went before, people will recognize from what you have been telling so far, it indeed had a big impact, and they will reflect, do I agree that by participating and being there, we actually made a difference? And that thinking about what we have been saying will actually keep that subject more in mind, make it land stronger. You can also tell a short story or an anecdote. I'm not too bad at short stories, but I didn't prepare any. I hope you can all imagine how that might look like. It might be slightly difficult to have only a story ready in such a short time, but it can be a strong ending as well. A call for action. A call for action is somehow when you want to motivate or inspire people, right? So, Mette, what were you thinking about when you chose actually the subject? Where were we?
Well, the end of the lockdown.
The end of the lockdown. Good. So the call for action could be, after we had discussed from how happy we are, how necessary it was, the pro and the cons of the lockdown, isn't it? The call for action could be from, let's not drop everything at once, no? Let's all slowly go back to as normal as can be. Perhaps keep the social distance, but let's all maintain the advantages that we have gained so far, right? So that could be a call to action. Does somebody want another example, or can somebody give another example? Let's make it a bit interaction. Atusa?
If you promote an education and you say that until this date you can get discount for your subscription, for example.
Exactly. You can actually say from, if you subscribe now,
Yeah.
you benefit from the discount as well,
Yes.
isn't it? You have already brought a point from very advantageous for a certain group of people, but if you do it now, a discount on top, isn't it? So the call for action is emphasized by the discount. Ask a rhetorical question. Yes, I have that one, rhetorical. The rhetorical question is a question which isn't a question, right? You make a statement, but it is in the shape of a question. And that actually can present the obvious in an appealing way, isn't it? The example they give here is from, we may ask, can we afford to do this? I ask, can we afford not to? Okay, so imagine we want to go back to the education.
Yes.
Yeah, then we can say, we've talked about the education. You may ask, can we afford to do this? Follow that education. And then for the group, it's to think at the end. I ask, can we afford not to? And then the conclusion with the audience would be, actually I agree with Atusa, is that would be your subject from, we cannot afford not to take that education because we would so much lose out. Yeah? So that's how you can use a rhetorical question. It isn't a question you want to emphasize, it's more or less obvious. Refer to the beginning of the speech is also one possibility. It normally makes it a nice round speech. So I started my educational from, normally at the beginning we already introduced the topic, isn't it? It's an important element. let's make that a strong element. Now at the end of the speech, I'm like, what we discuss now is, it's not so much the beginning that has a big impact, but it's just as much the end that needs your attention in order to make the most of your speech. And that's what we want, or that our speech is strong and well received, isn't it? So pay attention to the beginning, but just as much pay attention to the end. That's what it says. And summarize your main points. Summarize your main points. I think that's a bit obvious, isn't it? Toastmasters like the three sums. Okay? So if you go back to the speech of nature, you had a number of elements, isn't it? Why we should value nature. What you might do then at the end is that you say, so remember, or in conclusion, let's value nature for B, let's remember B, and therefore we all will end up with C. Right? And you shortly mention the elements that you have brought in. Fred, can you give an example of your mentor-mentee? How you could have repeated certain elements?
I think I did hint regarding the possibility of listening.
Okay.
What's important for a mentor, especially, is listening.
Mm-hmm.
Part's also important that you have to look at the mentee, his own background,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to communicate from both sides. There's only three I mentioned. There are a lot more, of course, but the most important for the mentor is listening, because you're not in a coaching mode.
Yeah. Yes. I remember those points. When you summarize, it's good to think from on what elements did what elements got most emphasis or attention in my speech. For instance, if you would speak about an education, you might see what your job prospects are. You might indicate the creativity of the education. You might explain the broad range of what it might cover. You might talk about the expert educators, teachers, etc. So when you summarize, because you have all of these points strongly emphasized or made an essential point of your speech, that is the elements that you could refer to and still end up with that call from, and yes, remember, if you enroll now, you have the discount. And can you see then that because you are at one side summarizing and you do the call for action, therefore your topic has landed that much more strong. Yeah? Did I make most of my elements clear? Here it says tip for success, and I filled in all of them. So after all those years, I still filled in all of them at once. Memorize your conclusion, then you think, I'm done. You don't remember anymore what you wanted to say. You do only half. End on time. Oh, I'm really known for going over time, and refrain from adding new points. Okay, that's a good one. What I can do, because it's also in a kind of a short manual form, if you would like to, I can send you all the points, and then you can remember. Okay?
Okay. Probably will not evaluate this and take notes. I don't know. If you wanna, why don't you?
Welcome. Who is not familiar with the Tabletopics?
Right, let's get started. So first, I will choose a victim. I mean, does anybody want to volunteer? All right. All right. Okay. So then I'm gonna pick somebody, and to start with somebody who is a little bit more experienced, I guess that would be Taya. Please.
Victim is here.
Perfect. So according to our evening theme, where are we? Where are we? The first one. So you meet up with an old group of friends. You gossip, you discuss the latest news, and suddenly you are asked this question: where did we celebrate our gala party? So I will ask you the question again. Where did we celebrate our gala party?
We, me and my group of friends.
Exactly. Good luck.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not too sure if I got the question correctly, so let me just refer to a real life situation, because I think during the lockdown it really was the time for me to reconnect with people with whom I lost a bit of touch. And some time ago I've lived in India, and I had the best mates over there with whom I've shared the apartment. So we all got together on the call, on Zoom. Some of the guys are now in Latin America, in Middle East, still in India, all over the place. And when we lived together there, our apartment was really like a party place. On a Christmas Eve, there were 50 people in our pool living room, sweating away, dancing. So if that can relate to a gala party, that was in India, in apartment Jade 1D.
Great, that was the warm-up. Now we will choose somebody who is a little bit less experienced. Dominica, please.
Okay.
Okay. True companionship enriches your lives and lets you climb the highest mountain. When did you experience true companionship? I will repeat the question. When did you experience true companionship? Good luck.
I experienced true companionship multiple times in my life. I think I've made really good friends throughout my life. There's few people that come into my mind when I think of companions. So my first friend that I got to know when I was 6 years old, we are very close friends until today, so I think we have been through a lot together. My second best friend, I met her at the beginning of my studies in Rotterdam. We worked together, we lived together, we went to parties together, we always did a lot of crazy things together, so she was a really good companion of mine. She's unfortunately living abroad now, she's in Germany at the moment, but she is coming back to the Netherlands in September, so I'm really excited that she's going to be my companion again. So I think, yeah, that was my answer.
Thank you. Great. So now for the third person, I would like to choose welcome. Let's see. Okay. A team is as strong as the weakest link. Toastmasters success is above all teamwork. How do you pull in all members that are sitting on the fence?
Sorry, what's that part?
I will repeat the question. How do you pull in all the members which are sitting on the fence?
During, in general, or during the Toastmasters meeting?
Just for the Toastmasters success. So just to
Well, when I was looking at the Easy Speak site tonight, I was surprised that there were 3 speakers at all with 10 members. So I was already going into my head, how would we make a very productive meeting with not much speakers at all? Eventually we did have 3 speakers, so that's great. But I was thinking, maybe in times like these, you could add another sort of part similar as yours, as a Tabletopics master, where maybe everyone could be active and be part, or maybe sort of an impromptu component where you have to maybe finish each other's sentence or make a little story, and then the other one has to continue on that story. So maybe that might be something in the future.
Next time.
Good job. Can I share a little story in between?
Of course.
To hook in what Robert says, I remember the first of my meetings was in Rotterdam Haven at the other club. And actually what really helped me out was the members in there, when they sit in the audience, they introduce themselves, just standing up and for 30 seconds explaining about themselves. So I guess else that we could do that as well, because that's something that helped me get through my fear. So,
Yep.
Robert, bravo. Can we do one more?
Yes, of course.
Then, the last, Atusa. Alright. Technology advances are many. Our lives change at a high speed. Where were we before Netflix and HBO existed? So the question is, where were we before Netflix existed? Good luck.
I think before Netflix existed, we were still watching TV, or we were still behind the screens. And I do want to say, especially with what is going on now in the world, some good points of the technology being developed is we can film things, we can share things on social media, and we can become more aware of what is going on in the world and open up our eyes. And I personally feel that right now, this is what we need to connect with different people and different also institutions, like be aware of what is going on behind the screens. So I want to say that actually, and talk not about Netflix, because we've always watched TV since the moment that there was TV, and I think this is a very good thing right now.
Thank you. Alright, now I would like to give the microphone back to the table Toastmaster.
And now the evaluation of the speeches. I want to invite Tanya to evaluate Magdalena.
Magdalena, first of all, I hope you don't feel stuck with me, because it's the second time in a row that again I'm evaluating you. And Congratulations for another successful speech. I have a few comments to make with regards to the content and the delivery of your speech. So let me first compliment how you started your speech, because you kept an intrigue that there is some super product that all of us would be interested in. I think that it kept everyone's attention straight away on you, anticipating what's coming next. I also think that you elaborated the problem statement very clearly, and you gave lots of points with why the situation is the way it is. Our attention moved away from nature to technology to staying at home. What was missing for me though is some kind of conclusion to your speech. Just as a suggestion, I think maybe to finish on a positive note, you could give an example of some parents who were successful at encouraging their kids to be outside. Or if there is no example or idea you have, you could just leave us wondering by saying that how would you change your life further, or how did you realize the importance of nature during this time? And with regards to the delivery, it was very clear and very easy to follow. Few suggestions I have is to try and take deep breaths. I'm struggling with that as well, so I really feel for you. But I think that it will make so much difference in how authoritative you sound, and it will give your delivery so much more confidence. And also, I think it probably comes with more experience to try and give a bit more voice variation, so that your speech is not coming across as monotonous. But to conclude, I think it was very relevant and a very interesting subject, well delivered. So thank you for your speech.
And for the evaluation of Robert.
Well, Fred, very nice speech. So here's your evaluation from a novice to an advanced speaker. Try to go by the list. And I'd say your tone and volume variation is very good. And you make eye contact with the whole group. I was sitting there lonely, but you still come to me with eye contact, which is very nice. And your gestures are also very nice, not too much, not too little, which make the topic, which I found medium interesting, you made it very captivating and intriguing, which was very nice. You have a strong ending, which is also very clear, and you show a lot of confidence, which is also very nice to look at. Sometimes at the beginning, especially when you lower your volume, you should try to focus a bit more on articulation. And for the middle and last part of your speech, your volume goes up and the articulation with that also gets better. And maybe you can try to vary a bit more in speed. Your tone and volume varies, which is very nice, but the speed could be a bit more. And thing to challenge yourself. You could maybe challenge yourself by moving a bit more purposefully. When you move around, you mainly go forth and back, like this, slowly, depending on the speed of your speech. And maybe, for example, when you speak about mentee, you could stand over here, and we speak about mentor over here. So maybe that's something you could challenge yourself on. So overall, very good speech, and it's my my amateur take. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Alrighty. Yes. Since we are not evaluating else, time for some.
Well, does somebody want to share something? It's not that it's not possible. It doesn't happen.
Anybody willing to? Then we can have some statistics. Atusa, please share us the 2008.
Yeah, I have to stand there too for that.
As you wish, I guess.
You can also stand there.
From here, okay. I have to say I wasn't clear on who I had to evaluate, so I wasn't sure, did I have to do you two or not? Toastmaster?
I guess so, but
Okay, I didn't.
no,
And-
it's better for me.
And I have to say, so I'm not used to having a role, so when you were standing there, I was just myself.
I know that role.
And after a while, I was like, oh, now I have a role. So I counted 2 times.
Perfect for me. Like it.
But after that, I stayed aware, and I counted for Fred 4 times, for Els 8 times, then also the table topics. Tanya 7 times, Dominica 10 times, and Robert 8. Yeah.
Thank you. And for the timing?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the introduction, you spoke for 2 minutes and 16 seconds. The counter, so at Tuesday you spoke for 15 seconds. Then me, the timer, for 2 minutes and 9 seconds, which I thought was surprising. Didn't feel that long. Then the next speech, Magdalena, you spoke for 5 minutes and 4 seconds. Fred, you spoke for 6 minutes and 10 seconds. Els, you spoke for 13 minutes and 43 seconds. Then Justinas, in your introduction for the table topics, you spoke for 1 minute and 21 seconds. Tanya, in your first speech evaluation, you spoke for 2 minutes and 11 seconds. Robert, you spoke for 1 minute and 59 seconds. And for the table topics, I counted as well. Tanya spoke for 1 minute and 6 seconds. I spoke for 1 minute and 6 seconds as well. Robert, 58 seconds. Atusa, 1 minute and 1 second.
Thank you. I think it's a wrap. So, any club business? Doing?
Sorry?
Can we evaluate how we treated them in this social justice?
Yes. Thank you. Okay. But, thank you. Club business. This is a very important evening, and you received, of course, the mail because the board should leave, but partially we will stay if re-elected, because we are still a growing club. And normally the function of president is vacant after a year, but since this we are only a first half year as a club, official club, I was asked re-electable in order to guide this club to more stable function, so the next time there can be another president. We have also some departing club officers, but before I go to that, I first want to make some recognition, because somebody has mailed a seat already in the mail, but we have our own distinguished Toastmaster. Else. I already showed it on the internet, but you have to take it. So she can hang this up in your office as a
Yes,
distinguished Toastmaster. Stay here, you're not ready.
Oh, sorry.
You're not ready.
Wow. Put a lot of effort in it. Good.
Yes. This is a guiding letter which I think is 2 words, but she has also completed something else. Hans has completed the Advanced Communicator Gold. So So, another recognition word.
Yes, thank you very much.
I give you the envelope with the papers as well, the guiding papers with us. And Els founded our club, and I'm grateful that we start now Rotterdam South as the third club. We still have to do a lot of catch up for Amsterdam because Amsterdam has more clubs than we have. But
Oh, yeah.
it's a
Give it
start.
some time.
It's a start.
Thank you very much.
Since we have not everyone here, I want also have our sponsors, I'm forgetting else,
Mentors.
mentors, I've got mentors of course, Faisal and Helmi, Xiang is the sponsor, so that's really great. So already some club officers left, like our VP left and our secretary left. So Marieke left. And Rob left. So we're a little bit short in our board. That's right. So, and for luckily enough, our VP PR function is already fulfilled by Tao, and she agreed to fulfill this role again. But we're going to vote, and since we do it only to people who are here at the moment, we send out the voting again, but we make it official, since we have to also announce the new board members to Toastmasters International. Our Sergeant at Arms, I asked to fill the role of treasurer, and he agreed with that. But we still, and else she said, okay, she would like to leave the VPE function. I told her you can stay on, but okay, if she, but first of all, we need new club officers, and that's since we have already 3 official, like me, the treasurer, TPR, the president, is still also fulfilled. It's the VPE. Vice President Education, the VPM, Vice President Membership, and Secretary. I would like to know, is somebody volunteering for these functions as public? No, it's part of a learning process within Toastmasters. Since everyone knows Toastmasters only as a public speaking club, we were more. We created leaders. And taking up a role in the board is a step forward in your growth. So you learn to participate, you get a connection more with other groups, you have board trainings, which you, by the way, can participate as members too. So next week, Saturday, is a board member training, I think, else?
Yes.
28, in The Hague, at Germans. A lot of fun, a lot of that thing also, which you can use in your professional life.
Is it not through Zoom? Is it not an online thing?
I'm not sure. It could be also online.
So that was an online thing.
Is it online?
Oh,
I don't know for sure.
Online.
I don't know for sure anymore. We could be online because you had also the trainer that was online, from speaker to trainer. We have a lot of developing trainings which you can participate with. But for the board members, there's a specific training. It's also required because we have to earn our points as a club. And of course, for getting new members is also very important. And since the Corona crisis evolved here, it was a very hard time to find new members. And people are scared, and we have to be creative. And we need creative people to build a creative club. I like your idea. I know I've seen this also in Rotterdam Toastmasters. I've also seen a lot of different things, but also the whole group. It's an idea, but that's also why we need every year a fresh board. We need input from the board, but also the members. The board executes it. We are there to service for the members. So that's one thing. And so I would like to know, is anybody who wants to volunteer for a function within the board?
I might, if I have more information, but I think that's.
Yeah, of course, but you will be guided. And vice, for instance, I give some functions. Vice President membership is a local role. She welcomes, or he welcomes the new members. She invites them in and he guides them in the beginning. the Vice President Education. Els, can you tell something about the function of Vice President Education?
Your responsible or task is somehow to set up the meetings and arrange from who's going to speak, evaluate, etc., etc. You can somehow assign that to the Toastmaster depending on how much experience they have. You also discuss with members what are their issues with progress, or what would they like to achieve, and who wants to go quick, who takes it easy, who is interested in leadership, and who is more into the speaking elements. Yeah. If there are requests for mentoring, then you check whether you can find a competitive mentee, mentor-mentee. It's among the more heavy roles in the board, in general.
And next of all, secretary is in relation, also in contact with the member, of course, for questions from outside the club. Of course, the sergeant at arms is the person who is responsible for setting everything up. The stage is right, the chairs are put there on. Of course, you don't do it alone,
No.
but we do that all together. The sergeant of arms takes the leading role in that. And I will post, I already post a little bit information about the roles within Toastmasters. But as I said, everything is guided, that's why it also we partly stay, because of the level experience. And if somebody else takes the role, I ask else to if there's a backup for information, so you don't fall totally blank in it, because we have to do as a club, and our club is one, a board member or not. It's not that you have more, that's we as board, we have a responsibility. And of course we want to grow. We want to be a big club, not too big, but big enough that we can grow. And that's the main reason to participate. And I can tell you personally, I was the first member within this club. The first indication for me was to go to The Hague, because there wasn't a club. All the clubs were on Tuesday. And I'd say, okay, I cannot go on Tuesday. Or it was a Dutch club, a Dutch or an English speaking club. So I could go to The Hague, and then I thought, yeah, but I'm coming in club, okay, I remember. So that's why I ended up as the first member, and also as the first frequent PR within this club.
Yeah.
And because we need to grow, and luckily we found a film for all. But I'd like to ask, if you like the function, please let me know here, because we can now have to do the election, because for July 1st we have to bring up the new board to the international headquarters in USA. So if you heard about the roles, which this does apply to you the most?
For now, at this stage, the first one I think sounds.
The membership?
Yes, it sounds the lightest, and I would like to be more involved, but I cannot yet calculate with my schedule, and I don't want to take on
It's okay.
responsibility.
It's also
Yeah.
when people get online because you're here. So everyone invites girls. When the guy when it gets in here by the VBPR and he signs, I become a member, it's transfers to the vice president membership. She or he guides the person to his next level. And for the education, it's a VPE. To control, if it's a president does this, what I do, and I coordinate everything. When the discussions to go, I make the final decision. That's okay. I would love to see you. So I may have a vote on this from all. Does everyone agree for the role as a vice president membership? Allow me to the board. We can install a new board.
I have to go stand there?
Yes.
Okay.
Just enough. I want to have a vote for Justin as our treasurer.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think that's unanimous. So at the moment, Tao is unfortunately couldn't come due to her circumstances, but can I have a hand for function as VPPR? Okay. We get 4 out of 6. So anyone interested also in a function? Not pushing. Okay. So then we have to maintain. Okay. Else, would you like to fulfill the role for VPP until further?
Yeah, I'm not dropping it. I mean, I started a club. I like Toastmasters, honestly. So obviously, if there is nobody, I will continue. But if somebody stands up, I gladly hand over my role.
Yes.
But isn't it better that you are at this moment to just guide us?
Yeah, that's why I think from if somebody says I'm willing to do it, you know, you can work together. The person takes
You have
over.
also
It's not
has
that
backup,
you
but it's
just
also
say from there it is and you don't.
Yeah,
know.
it's also an enormous learning process. You learn a lot of VPE because next to the president of the VPE is the second in command. Let's put it this way, in the board. See that that's commands the command.
Yes, yes, but I think I remain with my statement. I will not drop it. I will
Yes.
continue.
Yes.
But,
So if still somebody who reconsiders, I think we're hesitating.
If I may add something, there is research done on people who volunteer are actually more successful. I just saying. No, maybe the next meeting you need to sleep about it. Maybe next meeting. Just throwing it out there, so keep that in mind.
So we have to go to guidance if you also announce it. So next thing, of course, we missed the sergeant at arms, which is a very light also function. It's mostly welcoming people, and a secretary. I think that's not fulfilled yet. Then.
Sergeant at arms, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's is that what you do? This is
Yeah.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy, man.
Yeah, it's being there first, leading later.
oh yeah, you get a keys.
Oh, can I get?
Yeah, the section that arms had the keys normally, you know.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Where do you live?
It's
Can you ask Robert? Do you live in the neighborhood?
West.
West.
It's someone else volunteers
that's no problem.
No, you already said so.
Said your hopes.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, may I have may I have your votes, please, for our new sergeant at arms? Okay, since we have not yet for secretary, I don't hear anything coming up. Okay, I will go to my role. I put myself re-electable just for the reason of there's a function to guide a club is a little bit challenging for the most people, and I want to give the opportunity to other members to grow some more confidence to take up this role next time. Because then I will be an IPA, immediate past, or IPP, immediate past president, and he's then also there to as a guidance, as a mentor, to guide the club in the decisions, of course. But may I have your vote for if you want or don't vote? It's by hand rise for record, by election the president. Thank you. I feel honored. So we will mention the award. Else, can you communicate it to Toastmasters International, because we have to also mention it on TV Club and
Yeah, we will
Hey,
get
you?
those points, we will get.
Yes, and normally we have the meetings on the third Thursday of the month, right? Of-
Yes.
Huh?
Prior to gathering here.
Yes, prior to before we gather here, it's mostly at 7 o'clock. And due to Corona time, it's also online. So I also want to welcome you all as a new board member or as a new function in the board. And I love working together to achieve more goals. And of course, together we will get more members. And of course, if as members, if you know people, you know excited, tell. Because if you tell, you sell, right?
Yes.
And this is our marketing procedure because we're making leaders here. And that's important to get up, step up in the stage. And that's your voice here because that's important, especially in these times. So I thank you for installing the new board. I think there are, I don't know, more club buses next to the new board meeting. Is it first on July? Is
Yeah, I would like to have a quick evaluation
evaluation of?
how it went tonight. It's
Yes.
the first time with the social distancing. Do we all feel comfortable? Are there things that you would like changed, etc.?
Yes. Did you see that? So it's thank you very much for this stepping up the plate. Very grateful. So if there are some things, of course, it's where were we? We were online. But how was your idea? How did you like it to be here, physical, among people? Did you miss it? I personally did. Because you missed the interaction, you missed the gestures. Will you tell them about the gestures? Well, last time I was told I had to stand more still, that's why I was moving more the hands. But that's I understand because it's very important to get everything involved. So I want to go from each of the others. So would you like to start? How did you experience the first time offline again?
Yeah, I liked it very much. I did my icebreaker online, and it isn't as challenging as doing it on stage. I come here to really stand on stage and to experience that. So I really like being there.
Great. Note, even online is a very important thing because since we have now the corona, it says the status to be, it's also good to do online, but the most thing is I like also to be in front of more people, real life. What's your opinion about being back?
Well, I totally agree with Robert. I think like Toastmasters is like designed to be done offline and in front of people like in real life. Doing it on Zoom online was like a good substitute with what we have by then. But yeah, I think definitely this like real life version is better, of course.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, I agree. I also had my icebreaker online, which was still like exciting, but this is why I signed up, and I'm happy that it's back to this. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, the same for me. I mean, I have a lot of online meetings for work, so this was just another meeting that I was sitting in front of, so I'm really happy to be here and see the people.
Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely missed it. And online meetings, or I found it's actually important because I had to look for a new job during the quarantine. So suddenly my interview became almost like a Toastmaster meeting online because there were like 5 people. Because why not? So you never know when you need it, but it's definitely better to be back here.
What you thought about it?
I really missed it, and I think it's so great that things keep going, and despite all the disturbances with the corona crisis, still we managed to see each other online, and I didn't hesitate for a moment when it was announced that we have the first meeting in person again, but I thought, oh, how many people will turn up, how is it going to go, but it's really great to see that there is still interest and commitment from everyone to keep meeting one way or another. So it's
Yeah.
great.
Just else.
Yeah, I must say that I don't have any problems with this interface. I mean, with this listening, at least next time we can even sit next to each other if it's asked me. But I believe that when speaking online, we have different qualities which are asked. So, and speaking on stage, there are some different qualities that are needed to make the speech good. So I must say I'm happy to be back in this room again.
Yes. Yes, it's just like the Tabletopics right here. I mean, you see, when we get on Corona and we get on online, you have to be creative. You have to adapt to the situation. That's also what leaders do. That's what we have to do here. And of course, everyone likes to be on stage because you see the people, you see how they react. If you see it on screen, you don't see how. Yeah, you see pictures, but it's so small that you don't see how they react. And you've got also the excitement when you're offline to see people, to feel the ambience, the sphere that's here. And even though we're still little, it's also an advantage because we can progress faster at the moment. And you go to other clubs like Toastmasters or Sprekershaven, they have a lot of experienced members already there. But if you get there as a new member, you have to wait time by time because also the experienced members have to go now to pathways and start over again. And you have a long waiting list. So that's our selling point. If you want to do Toastmasters, go to our website. There you can develop. A lot of people that success asks for speed. That's a marketing tool. Yes. No. Success needs speed. If you want to develop, if you want to learn from a lot, we're going to do it better when we do faster. And of course, we can also have some time when there are some questions about how to use Easy Speak, of course, because I don't think everyone uses it yet correctly. What Toastmasters Club does you, how to mention your attendance and also to participate in your roles. A lot of people think, okay, yes, I want to speak, yes, but all other roles, just like mentor-mentee, they're additioning to. If you have speakers, you need also people who evaluate, people who are accountants, and learn also a little bit about yourself. Every role is designed to give in the club to give your recognition. For instance, when you're a timer, you're going to get created to time. You know that when you're an counter, it's how can I avoid to say too much stir or the T's and smacking T's and silent T's and whatever you call it. The gestures, of course, and the evaluators. Everyone looks at it at a different point of view. That's why also you use the sandwich method to value people. Something good, something what can work on, and end with something good. Because like the mentor and teach, always about you have to look in other people's minds. So people here, someone starts here because he or she is afraid to go on stage. So even being on stage is very hard. Some people like me, I love to talk on stage. I'm not afraid to go on stage. I have a lot of work on techniques. So everyone has a lot of own reasons to participate, but we must keep it excited and also fun. Of course, that's the most important thing, to have fun.
So on that note, we then all agree that on the 2nd of July we again are here. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll communicate that to the place.
We will also communicate to the rest of the members of the decision of the board.
Okay.
So and ask for volunteers there. So for the missing roles.
Yes, if somebody would like to do a speech next time. Tanya? Yeah. Good. Somebody else? Oh, okay, wait a minute.
So next week full.
I would like
Great.
to do the icebreaker.
Okay. I saw 5 hands then, Atusa and Nette and Justin. Yeah?
Next question, who will fulfill a role? Timer, background.
I can approach you.
Wait, sorry. It's next time is the second, right?
Yeah.
No, it's not a good time for me.
No problem. There will be other.
Yes.
You can also put your speeches up.
There are other meetings.
Yes. You can also mention, if you want to speak, you can also request a speech. And you can put 3 optional dates. But it's also easy to get to that as well. For now, I want to thank all of you for participating here. And we can answer now, where were we? We were here. We were alive. We were alive and kicking again. So that, or tell it like Arnold Jackson, I'll be back. We are back. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
I have to rush.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.